This is a technique of combat. It is a substitute for war and other violence.
We don't know quite how it spread, but it certainly did into 30-some languages in different parts of the world, on all continents except Antarctica.
I say nonviolent struggle is armed struggle. And we have to take back that term from those advocates of violence who try to justify with pretty words that kind of combat. Only with this type of struggle, one fights with psychological weapons, social weapons, economic weapons, and political weapons. And that this is ultimately more powerful against oppression, injustice, and tyranny than is violence.
I had gone to Beijing after the Tiananmen Square protests were well underway. That whole event, which it should be remembered, was not just in Beijing, but reportedly in 350 other cities of China. Similar protests were going on, but they were not planned. They were not prepared. There was no strategic decision. There was no advanced decision how long you stay in the square and when you leave. What became very clear to me in retrospect was that the students in the square were operating with great commitment and bravery, but they really didn't know what the hell they were doing. The students had no plan. They were improvising all the way through. And later on, we know that many of those Chinese people who were out in the streets to block there in another day were shot and killed. The attitude that you simply improvise and that the improvisation will bring you greater success is nonsense. It's actually the opposite. That if you don't know what you're doing, you're likely to get into big trouble. Atomization is when the regime attempts to make every individual in the society an isolated unit. It's one of the main ways that totalitarian systems seek to control their populations, make them all fear of each other, fearing to speak out and to act together, never telling a neighbor or even sometimes a family member what you really think.
And that's why it's so important that you begin with these very, very low-risk activities so that people can put their foot forward for the first time, put their toe in the water of revolutionary change. That's the foundation that we work on, is changing the obedience patterns, moving the obedience to a willing obedience rather than a coerced obedience.
By seeing the example of the demonstration of bravery by other people, now it's we. And we can do something that I alone could not do.
During the 96, 97, we were walking day after day after day, and the police was blocking streets, and our numbers were start falling because it was obviously too boring for the people to demonstrate every day in a harsh winter. So we said, okay, why won't we go home and try to make noise from our balconies? So we start hitting pots and pans, and they spread like fire throughout Belgrade and other cities, and radio stations were, transmitted oh, it is very loud in this neighborhood. Oh, these people are using the loudspeakers. Oh, there is a disco club joining the protest. And we were doing it from 7:30 to 8 p.m. as a response to the state TV news. That was the answer of this is what we don't watch your crap. We do our own thing. From the pots and pans to doing the stickers, so the stickers can be done in every building. And also the things like, you know, will you go and prosecute the kids for wearing Otpar t-shirts when there is not one single law which bans wearing anything on a t-shirt? So, for the policemen getting inside the high schools and arresting high school kids only because they were wearing the t-shirt, and then going home and talking to their wife, whose friend was complaining because her son was arrested, having a dialogue with your kid, who is coming now from his school where nobody wants to spend time with him or her because their father is, you know, beating kids from my neighborhood. And now, you know, this systemic oppression doesn't work.
These pillars are holding up the government, like my fingers are holding up this book. And I develop a strategy to undermine each of those pillars: the police, the Sangha, or the religious institutions, the workers, whatever. Every organization. And as they weaken and start to collapse, the government will collapse when those pillars are broken. Ideally, we want those pillars not destroyed, but transferred over to the democratic movement.
If you want these pillars to shift sides, you need to co-opt people. You can co-opt people by two means. If you put a price on what they are doing for the sake of the regime, or give them the clear message that there will be a place for them in the future society. This is exactly what Otpar was done. We were telling the police that we are both victims of the same system. They're pushed to do things they wouldn't like to do. We are pushed to the streets instead of sitting in the classrooms. There is no reason to have war between victims and victims. One victims wear blue uniforms, other victims wear blue jeans, but there is no reason for this conflict. And this worked, really worked. And it worked in Georgia, it worked in Ukraine, it worked in many other places in the world. This is the way you do. You go and co-opt from discursive pillars. You don't throw stones to the police.
There's many people in conflict situations that really would like to use violence, but their opponents really have more military weapons and weapons of violence, which are usually physical weapons, than the potential resistors have. So if the resistors choose to fight with violence, their opponent has all the advantages in that situation because you're choosing to fight with your opponent's best weapons. But you can choose to fight with a totally different kind of weapon than these nonviolent forms, which are much more difficult for the opponent to counteract.
It's very difficult to build a nonviolent march because what you need is only one agent provocateur or only one lunatic or drunk person throwing stone at the police. So my question is, you have 20,000 peaceful demonstrators, you have one idiot breaking out the window, and these people got all of the media attention. So this is the message which can efficiently undermine your movement. Big concentration tactics are very difficult to control. So what we were dealing with is like you would always, you go on the march and there is a risk of the people getting arrested. So what would you normally do? Instead of putting the big guys in front, you will put the girls in front. You will put the grandmas in front. You will put the military veterans in front. So the police is now faced with the friendly faces. And these people are actually carrying the flowers and the banners and smiling. So you make the situation less threatening, so you make the possibility of violent outcome really smaller. October the 5th should be seen in a context of a successful strategy, and that was not the day like many spectators of media like CNN. They just see this big bunch of people, revolution, boom, and it's over. It was first of all 10 years of attempts and failures, and 2 years of existence of Otpor, 5 different campaigns, and we were setting the victory on the elections. We knew that Milosevic will lose, and we knew that he will not accept the fact that he has lost. So there was this 10 days of increasing pressure that was very important, because not only we brought all the country to the standstill, including the general strike, efficiently dragged down the 70% of electrical power, and if you look to the Gene's mechanisms, this is called a non-violent coercion. So first you try to convert somebody, then you try to accommodate somebody, and then you go to the coercion. In non-violent coercion, your opponent, in this case Milosevic, was ready to continue the struggle. In fact, orders were given to the police to react against the people. But people were not responding to these orders, because the policemen will know that if they shoot into the crowd of hundreds of thousands of people, including their own kids, they will go down to the sink together with Milosevic. They didn't want that to happen. But this is why this preparation period was so important, because throughout this period, after victory in the elections and general strike, we successfully explained to the people in the police and in the military that it is not, again, government against the opposition, but this is the people as whole, Serbian people, against Milosevic. So around 3 p.m. you had like 200,000 to 300,000 people on this square, and there was a non-violent takeover of the physically of this building. And this is where the people who broke into the building at the October the 5th found many leaflets pre-marked for Milosevic. So this is where we, actually the physical cheat was taking place on the second floor of this building. It was more like symbolic takeover, because what was the real takeover was that Milosevic lost power that day, because police disobeyed, because he ordered the military to get from the barracks after 3 p.m. and they disobeyed. This is where he lost the power. What you were looking on the TV and physical overtaking of the building was just the symbol of him losing authority that day.